You want to have some friends over tonight? Well, I guess. Oh, hi folks. I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. Folks, it's time to talk about the comic books, and we're going to go into the Jedi comic series. The issue is Mace Windu, written by John Ostrander, and in this issue, Mace is trying to keep the Jedi united in a time of turmoil. You see, a lot of the Jedi aren't really that savvy about charging into the Clone Wars and doing war, you know, and so it makes sense because, you know, Jedi are peacemakers. Are we really making peace? And so Mace has to basically unite these Jedi, get them behind him, say, yes, this is a good cause, we should be doing this. Now, in other comic books exploring Mace Windu, I just haven't felt that his character was explored that much. And it wasn't his fault. Either he's sharing the spotlight with several other characters and doesn't get that big of a chance to shine, or he was in the Star Wars Tales episodes, and those are just way too short to judge whether it's going to be good or bad. And also, when looking at that Tales, Star Wars Tales 13 issue, I noticed that a lot of the art is just vastly different. Like Mace is portrayed as someone who looks like he's 60, and then the next short story, which takes place around the same time, he's like looks like he's 20. It's all just a mess. The stories are so short and brief, and they have to end within the next few pages that there's really no content there. And I think John Ostrander, even though he just has a one shot to do it, does a pretty good job in this one. All right, let's move from the comic books into the books, the young adult books, and you know what I'm talking about here, folks. It's Legacy of the Jedi by Jude Watson. Now, this one spans almost 7 decades around the character Lorian Nod, who was a former Padawan and friend of Count Dooku. What can I say? This is a great series. Jude Watson does it again. I've saved this for about this time in the timeline because this is about, it ends with, of course, Obi-Wan and Anakin in the Clone Wars, and the storyline kind of wraps up. But let's just go through this piece by piece. I'm not going to give any spoilers here, but at the beginning, the first part is Dooku as a Padawan. We've never seen that before, and that was great to see. And I wanted to read more about that era. It's so interesting an era, and very rarely were they allowed to go that far back, meaning, you know, 10, 20 years back before Episode 1, taking those characters, you know, from when they were young, and like a young Qui-Gon story, which is what we got to see in the second part. Wasn't that interesting, folks who read it, that you saw Master Dooku and then Padawan Qui-Gon, and I loved it. In fact, after reading that section, I was like, no, Jude, we need to do a whole series on this, because I would love to hear about Padawan Qui-Gon and Master Dooku and see what was it. Why was Master Dooku so revered among the Jedi? I mean, he had his own statue, right? One of the lost ones who quit the Jedi Order. Even Mace Windu in the movie refused to believe that it could be Count Dooku. No, not him. Well, all we see is an evil son of a gun, right? In the movies and the stories. So yeah, it had to be him. Why is it so impossible to believe that he's the bad guy? Well, that's because he obviously had this long legacy of being a great Jedi. And I think young adult books or actual novels dealing with Master Dooku and Padawan Qui-Gon would have been amazing to read about. Because we could have heard about all these great things. Maybe he makes wise decisions. Maybe Qui-Gon learns everything from him. Now, true, we can maybe see that little side of Dooku that isn't always there. But for the most part, let's hear why he's such a great Jedi. Let's have our heart go out to him. Maybe he just saw the corruptness going inside of the Order, or going, you know, just the whole fakeness of the whole thing with the Jedi and the Republic. Maybe that's what he saw. Maybe that's what changed him. But, you know, we can see that maybe in the storyline as they get older. But I think a young adult series of that was a missed opportunity within the EU. Now, in the next section, of course, is one of my favorites because it has to deal with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, my favorite team up, right? I love the Jedi Apprentice series again, as I said. And so this was just like nostalgia all over again. You get to read about the good old days of Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. And man, I loved it. I love that. And after they finished the story with Lorian, you know, the Hook storyline that continued on, I was like, no, Jude, just make another adventure. I'm still reading. I'm still reading. You don't even have to wrap up this adventure. I don't even care. Let's go with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Where's their next adventure? Let's hear about it. I was so in love with that little section. And of course, it finally ends with Obi-Wan and Anakin in the Clone Wars. Now, overall, this story was really good. It was really, of course, it was good. We got to see eras that we hadn't seen before. We got to see characters in a younger form that we had never seen before. There was a lot that Jude Watson gave us in this. Now, it came out in the form of a hardback and a 2-in-1 paperback with some extra stuff that I'll talk about later. So it's still pretty easy to get. But definitely, if you like the Jedi Apprentice and the Jedi Quest series, I don't see any reason why you wouldn't love this one. All right, folks, that's all the time I have for today. I'll see you next week with another video. All right, so when are your friends coming over? This is way too many friends. I miss Yub Nub. Got dadgum batteries dying on me. Ewoks falling on the floor. Goodness gracious. Stay. You good? All right. Don't panic. I fixed it. I don't even know where I was.